together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairocana Maha Mudra Mani Padma Chavala Pravataya
Please join in some simple stretching exercises. please stand for the 3 refuges. Together we'll take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we'll do this in Sino-Korean, in keeping with the tradition that was passed on to us by Venerable Samusunim. So even if you do not know the words, please throw your voice in because this is a sound practice. We'll do my favorite version. Please repeat after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
My deeply awakened mind.
My deeply awakened mind.
Which must be cultivated to be known fully.
Which must be cultivated to be known fully.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
Truth manifesting everywhere.
Truth manifesting everywhere.
Which must be cultivated to be known fully.
Which must be cultivated to be known fully.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
deep friendship and interconnection of all beings,
deep friendship and interconnection of all beings,
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
Please return to your mats and cushions for a 5-minute period of meditation. And there's a couple of cushions available here if you'd like to use one. Check 1, 2. please sit comfortably. Buses passing by on Packard Street. Cooler weather as fall returns. And as the students come back to Ann Arbor, a distinct reduction in the number of parking spaces for street parking. Welcome in from the 10 Directions, Dharma brothers and sisters. My name is Magamuk, or in the outside world, I'm known as Mike. And I'm one of the lay Dharma teachers here at the Zen Buddhist Temple. We have 2 full-time priests, and we now have 5 lay Dharma teachers. And so thanks for your patience if I get slap happy with the Chukpi too many times. I want to talk today about rituals. Rituals are very important in Zen practice. And there are a few different definitions of the word ritual. When we hear ritual, we may think of how we did the 3 refuges together, first in Sino-Korean and then in English. And of course, in our everyday lives, there are rituals around a certain event, such as someone's birthday. Those rituals might include the birthday cake and singing the happy birthday song. Here at the temple, we have a very ornate, silly hat that we make the birthday person wear on their birthday, and that's part of the ritual. One definition I found is that a ritual is a sequence of activities involving gestures, words, actions, or objects performed according to a set sequence by practicing during that time. My own experience with rituals was shaped at a very early age because I was raised as a Roman Catholic. And so there were many rituals associated with Mass, watching the priests say Mass in church. I learned as a teenager when I was taking karate lessons not to fidget, not to scratch or things like that during practice, to pay great attention to how we execute physical actions. In the beginning and end of every karate lesson, there was a period of meditation. We would sit Japanese style, which is called seiza, and we learned to not fidget during that time. And there was a very formal way to do that. At 6 years old, I felt like I had been a failure at piano lessons because I could not read music. But then at 12 years old, I felt like karate was something I could get better at with practice. In Zen, we practice making very simple activities into rituals by bringing our full attention to them. So for example, for those of you that have taken the introductory meditation course, what do we do just before we sit down on the cushion? That's right, we fix our mats and cushions, right? And one way to do it is to take 2 hands and move the mat over to the side and then smooth out the cushion to make sure, move the cushion over to the side, smooth out the mat to make sure that there's no wrinkles in it. And then carefully with 2 hands return the cushion to the mat after we've fluffed it up and made it puffier. And so when we come in, if we've been coming here for a while, we may do 3 prostrations to the statue of Buddha as we enter before we sit down. That's another ritual. And when we're bowing to the Buddha statue, statue, we're actually bowing to ourselves. We're bowing to the teachings of the person, Siddhartha Gautama, who lived 2,500 years ago, and we're bowing to our own capacity to wake up just like he did. But I want to get back to this making very simple, mundane activities into rituals. Emptying the dishwasher. You know, we can empty the dishwasher by paying very careful attention to taking out the plates. Folding clothes as they come out of the dryer. You know, these are very simple activities, but a Buddhist of 2,500 years ago, or even anyone of 100 years ago, would be fascinated looking at us today doing these activities. They would say, wow, you have a machine that cleans your clothes for you? You have a machine that dries your clothes? You have a machine that cleans your dishes for you? And 2,500 years ago in India, they believed that there were certain realms. There was the animal realm and the realm of hungry ghosts and the human realm. And if the people from that age could look at us today, they would not say that we're living in the human realm. They would say that we're living in the God realm, because we have it so much easier in some ways. Those people, if they were looking at us today, they would have no trouble paying attention to every spoon that comes out of the dishwasher, and they would marvel at how clean that spoon is without us having to do any work. When we sit down to eat meals at the temple, for the first 10 minutes, we do it in silence. And we do that because we want to pay full attention to the taste of the food and the activities of eating. We can make into a ritual the act of washing dishes by hand, hand washing pots and pans. A tradition at the temple is that the newest resident is the one who usually washes the pots and pans, while the other residents put away the pots and pans and clean the floor and do other things like that after breakfast. I was a resident here last year for 5 months, and for 4 months and 3 weeks of that time, I was the newest resident. So I got to wash a lot of pots and pans until Samatha came. And it's not hazing, you know, even though it sounds like it, because it's very practical, because the newest person is capable of washing the pots and pans and really learning how to do that, while the people that have been around for longer, they know where the pots and pans go. They know where to put everything away without having to ask, because we have a lot of pots and pans in the kitchen here. At the temple, we have a sink that's very large, and then we have the largest cooking pot, which we use as a basin. We fill that up with hot water and some soap so that we're not using too much water, the full amount of the sink. And we dunk every piece one by one into that basin, and we wash it. And my favorite part is the colander. When you take the colander and you dunk it into that basin, 100 fountains of water spring out like the Bellagio fountain in Las Vegas. And if I were thinking about something else while I were washing the dishes, I might miss the beauty of that. But every day when I was washing, 100 fountains of water. I'm sometimes tempted to distract myself when I'm emptying the dishwasher. I try to count the items as they're coming out, and I try to make it into a little game and pay attention to it that way. That's probably better than paying attention to something else, having monkey mind and my mind going off into the past or the future. But maybe someday I'll get to the point where I can not look at an outcome, you know, not look at having the the dishwasher fully empty or my progress along the way, and just pay attention to the activity as it's going on. We might say that these activities are somewhat boring. We could think of them as boring. They don't seem to require very much thinking, and this is why we are tempted to distract ourselves by doing something else at the same time, like listening to the news or listening to music or a podcast. My friend Steve says that he likes to approach every task, simple task like washing dishes, as if it's the first time he's seeing it, and to try to capture that sense of wonder, and that sense of competence when in Zen we say, the work will teach you how to do it, right? So if we're scrubbing something, we're scrubbing and scrubbing, and with every scrub, 1 micron of this hardened material comes off, then we can learn that, if we just soak that in hot water for 5 minutes, it'll come off so much more easily. This washing dishes like the first time we're seeing it, this is similar to drawing based on a photograph. There's a wonderful book, which I know that some of you know, called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And one of the exercises in that book is to draw based on a photograph, but first turn the photograph upside down. So because the photograph is upside down, when you look at that photograph and you try to draw based on that, you're actually paying attention to the lines and the shadows and the edges, rather than saying, okay, this is a person's face and this is a person's nose, and a nose is supposed to look like this, so I'm going to draw it like this. No, you're really paying attention to what is there in the moment in that photograph. And as a result, the drawing comes out to be much more realistic, because you're not trying to draw a nose, you're just drawing a line. By doing it this way, it's one way of controlling what we're thinking about, or also we could say controlling what we're not thinking about. Because if we make ourselves pay attention to that line, then our minds can't go off onto monkey mind in the past and in the future. When the Buddha was alive, a person once asked him, "Sir, what do you and your monks practice?" And the Buddha replied, "Well, we sit, we walk, and we eat." And the person said, "But wait a minute, everybody sits and walks and eats. So what makes it special what you're doing?" And the Buddha replied, "The difference is when we sit, we know that we are sitting. When we walk, we know that we're walking. And when we eat, we know that we are eating." And to me, that means that even 2,500 years ago, that person, the Buddha, recognized the importance of mindfulness before there were ever any peer-controlled studies, peer-reviewed studies about how important mindfulness can be for our health, for our mental health. If we pay attention to these simple activities, we can start to feel the flow state, even when we're just doing something like emptying the lint filter in the dryer. Like, when I go to empty the lint filter, it can be frustrating at first as I'm using my fingers to try to scrape the lint off the filter and it doesn't want to come off. But as soon as I can get hold of a piece of lint, all the rest of the lint magically sticks to it, and it's very satisfying, Some of you have heard of this concept of flow in psychology, which is a mental state that was first described by the Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And for those of you that have heard about this flow state, what are some of its characteristics, or what are some of the things that bring it about? Yes?
Everything just comes really easy. Everything just comes really easy. Yeah, keep going.
And it's like you don't have to really even think to do the things.
It's like you're one with the activity. Yes, thank you. What else? What else?
Really good.
You feel really good.
It could be a stupid thing you're doing, but it feels really good.
Even though it could be a stupid thing that you're doing, it feels really good. The other day at my partner's house, I was clipping vines off of her chain link fence because she likes to have no vines on the chain link fence. And these are invasive vines. This is Dutchman's pipe that can not just take over the fence, but then tunnel under the ground and come up and go up into the trees, and it has blocked out the light from some of the trees. And because I knew that this could be a mundane, perhaps boring activity, I told myself, I'm just going to do this for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, if I want to keep going, I can keep going, but I'm just going to do it for 15 minutes. So I got out there with the yard waste spin and the clippers, and after 15 minutes, I did not want to stop. I was so into it. And it's like a way of tricking ourselves, you could think of it, into doing these tasks, because if we do them like this often enough, we know what's going to happen. We know that we're going to get into it. Anything else about the flow state? Yes?
So it's like the concept of Wu Wei, which is like effortless action. So like even though you're working really hard, you're so focused, and you're so invested in that thing that it feels effortless, and like hours go by like minutes because you're just so invested in that flow state.
Yes, yes, like the concept of Wu Wei, effortless action, and you're so invested in it that hours seem to go by like minutes. You lose track of time. Did you want to say something else?
Time dilation.
Time dilation, yeah.
Just like that.
Time dilation without having to travel at relativistic speeds. Yeah. Yeah. It's also known colloquially as being in the zone, right? You may have heard people say, especially athletes, being in the zone. The mental state in which you're fully immersed in an activity, a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, enjoyment. It feels really good. You're completely absorbed in what you're doing. And flow can be achieved, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi says, flow can be achieved when the task is well matched to your level of skill. It's not too difficult for us, and it's not too easy for us. And I find that if I think it's too difficult for me, maybe I just need to break it down into smaller and smaller pieces. And I find that if it's too easy for me, maybe I'm not really paying attention to the process as well as I could, to the physical sensations of the process. Another aspect of ritual is repetition, doing the task on a regular basis, because we get comfort out of the pattern of doing it, and we find stability in coming back to that ritual regularly. So now I'd like to hear from you guys, and we'll pass the microphone around. Raise your hand if you want to reply. I'm interested in, what are your thoughts on this topic? And what are some of your rituals? Or what are some things that you can make into rituals? So someone can pass the microphone around, and yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I would say my main ritual is trying to get healthy sleep. So, wouldn't get any sleep, tried to figure out why that is. Because I'm looking at my phone, I'm eating, I'm drinking like an hour before. I had the TV on. I would fall asleep on the couch. So now the ritual is turn off the phone at 8 p.m., stop eating before 9, drink water at 9, turn off all the lights, no artificial light, meditate before bed, and like be kind to myself. So then it's just that process of this is something I have to do, or my enjoyment of sleep is enhanced by doing this ritual every night. And it's really helped. I liked it a lot. Thank you.
When I think about flow state and rituals, I think about my old friend at one of my previous jobs. He was a tech, and he would solder all day. And I would go up to him and say, "Hey, Barry, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in the flow state." And so it's just this discussion reminds me of him and how he could just turn his job into something enjoyable. And I think that's a good memory of him.
It's actually a coincidence you talked about flow and rituals today, because I've really been looking towards how to reach that flow state. So there's a neurologist called Ryan Doris who focuses on flow, and like he said, like every morning, if you want to reach flow to a better way, you should do like the hardest thing of the day, the first thing of the day, because you have a lower cognitive load. So my ritual is when I wake up, I try to do the hardest task of the day, whether it's like a really hard homework problem or like I'm preparing for a test and I have to do it, or if I have to like exercise really hard and go hard in like the very first thing in the morning to enter that flow state. So and also because the first thing you do in the morning, it gives momentum to like keep doing like really productive things for the rest of the day. And also another ritual I do is like to combat negativity, is that I will never try to end a day on a bad note. So before I sleep, I heard like the thing you do right before your sleep really affects your subconscious mind. So whether it's a good or bad day, like 10 or 5 minutes before I sleep, I visualize like the best version of myself, and I visualize all the things I'm grateful and positive for. And if you keep repeating and doing that again and again, visualizing it right before you sleep, it really enters your subconscious mind and makes you generally a positive person, and like breaks those negative patterns in your subconscious mind. So yeah, those are like two of the rituals I practice on the daily. Thank you.
To me, the key, I guess, insight or concept with ritual is to keep it alive. That's what I think of, is like everything is a ritual if we're bringing ourselves to it. And, but if we are just going through the motions, then it's as if we're carrying a corpse, as we might say in Zen. So that to me is it's just like, how do you do that? How do you ritualize anything you're doing or your life to just keep it alive? And anyone, I'm asking for a friend. Any insights are beneficial here? Oh.
I'm so glad you asked that question. I think we all ask it, even if we found a state of flow or a routine that works for us, that we do keep alive. I mean, it's like that flame within that we have to like really cultivate so that it burns brightly. I mean, it's gonna dull at various stages of our lives. I start each morning with a vigorous yoga practice, and it's vinyasa, which is one breath, one movement. And I found that even on the days, or especially on the days that I don't want to do it, or the days that I absolutely need to, and a way that I keep that alive is by paying close attention to those days that I do give in, and I choose not to go because maybe I had too many glasses of wine the night before. And it's like, which one actually makes me feel better, and which one actually makes me lock into the rest of my day. So it's a practice of paying attention. Add one thing in the morning. And I'm saying that as someone who, kind of piggybacking off of what you said a moment ago, do the hard thing first and everything else just kind of flows behind it. But yeah, like maybe it's hard just to wake up, period. Force yourself, push past that, wake up. And then you'll go to bed a little earlier that evening just, because of it. Then you realize you're waking up because you feel better after having woken up early. What can you add one more thing? Like maybe it's stretching, maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation. But over time, you start to recognize that your life just flows in the same way that your mind can.
Did you also have a comment? Okay. I came in today thinking a lot about beginner's mind because I have a tendency to disrupt flow for reasons I don't totally understand. And that is what that is. There's probably a happy medium between the two. But I noticed the other day, and I talk about work all the time, so I'm going to talk about work, that I came in and I felt like all of my normal habits had been totally disrupted. And I spent the time in the morning being very careful about everything that I did and practicing all of the things that I normally don't think about practicing. And I found flow in a state of surprise beginner's mind. And I don't know, that popped into my head just now, that's all.
I would say when I think of flow state and trying to continue that momentum of having that calmness and peace when you're flowing throughout the day or doing whatever you're doing, it comes in waves. And I think being gentle with yourself when you fall out of your practices or you're building up new ones and you're finding what fits for you and your lifestyle. I think that's something that I've experienced is being in states where I'm able to practice more deeply and really feeling that momentum build of having a continuous practice, but then being gentle with myself if I am going out of that and finding a different way or finding a new combination of things for the particular state that I'm in or the place that I'm in and where I'm transitioning to. And so I think just being conscientious with yourself of that you're progressing and you're continuing, you're aware of how you want to show up. And even if it's not all falling together all at once, and it's going up and down and you have those high moments and then you fall out, you're still going to come back to those, and it's going to, even if it's going up and down, it's going to keep going up for the most part. So.
So I found my experience with flow is usually I'm experiencing a lot of joy. And it seems like I'm totally engrossed at the task in hand. So like all my anxieties, thoughts about anything outside of the task is not even like in my peripherals. And I think the best way I could intentionally try to do that is, like you were mentioning, doing a task as simple as laundry, just kind of paying attention to the feel and the touch and every tactile sensation that goes with it, I think.
Good morning, Sangha. Wow, what a topic. I find importance in structure, high importance in structure and routine, and my better half would know this, I went almost crazy for quite a while. I had to have it in order to function. Today, I find myself in a weird area, and thank you all for speaking because you have given me so much information to work with. My structure has been broken, and I kind of feel lost. I need, I believe in it, I need it, but also now I see a different side of it. I guess it's accepting the fact that, saying structure and routine is beneficial and necessary, but applied in a healthy manner. I, for a while, was blessed with being able to experience that, but it was in an unhealthy way because my life and my sanity depended on it. Today, I'm going to restructure that. I'm trying to find what that new structure is. Because it helped me. When I woke up in the morning and I had a set of routines to do, and I went systematically every morning without even thinking about it. It was the same thing. And I had a wonderful day that day. No matter what the world threw at me, I was able to adapt in that moment. But now if I woke up late and I had other things that I had to deal with and my whole routine got broken up, oh, it was chaos. That whole day I was not able to adapt. I was not able to accept certain things or deal with certain things. And, and that was crazy. But today I'm trying to find a healthy way, and my whole life has changed. My way of seeing life, the way I think about it, my goals are completely different. So now I have to be kind with myself and give myself the time to be able to observe and, as I said, restructure my routine and find one that fits my life in the healthiest way, possible. And speaking of flow, the only time I ever felt flow was when I cook. I was in the industry for 13 years, but I still love to this day to cook. The kitchen is, I love it. And when I'm in that flow, it's almost, I no longer have to think about the temperature of the steak or how done are the green beans it's almost as if I become part of that whole, saying meal preparation, and the steak kind of just whispers at me, hey, time for me to flip over. The green beans are over here telling me, hey, but that's how it feels. It's not like I hear a voice, so no, I'm not losing my mind and I'm not going crazy, but that's what it felt like. Professionally cooking for 13 years, I was taught the importance of learning, what it takes to cook different items. So you got to be mindful of timing, when you start something, finish it, so on and so forth. And that's one concept, but flow just takes that away. I'm just there, and it's almost as if everything speaks to me and I'm speaking to them, and it just goes and boom, it just happens. But you're fully focused and aware of it all, but at the same time, fully immersed and unaware of it all. The only way I can explain it. Thank you.
I have experienced flow the best when I'm swimming laps in a pool where you can see the bottom and you can see where you're going. It's a different sort of flow if you're swimming in open water where you can't really see where you're going or see the bottom, so you have no frame of reference. And I find swimming really interesting, how it forces you to coordinate your breath with your movements, and then kind of cope with the difficulties of being in water and getting your heart rate up and having to just adapt to all of that. So yes, I'm really grateful for swimming laps. And also what occurred to me as a hobby I have is sewing with a sewing machine, not hand sewing. This hand sewing does not cause a flow state. It causes swear words to come out of my mouth. But sewing with a machine is very interesting, how you can press the pedal and make the machine do perfectly spaced stitches. And when you were talking about the dryer and the dishwasher, like the sewing machine, wow. Like, can you imagine having to still have, you know, our village groups of predominantly women in the past, right? Like making all of our clothes by hand. And then I thought about ritual. You know, I have these idealized rituals that I would love to be the basis for my day, but actually my day is predominantly made up of very mundane or like lowly habit. I don't know, like putting the keys on my purse, putting my purse on the hook, putting my shoes on the rack, making my coffee every morning in the same way every day. And so I'm thinking about how to develop new mindfulness and appreciation and gratitude for the very mundane, like habits that are even sort of kind of annoying, right? Like, and that's all I have to say.
So when I think of flow, it's kind of like, for me, it's like a state of surrender. Like when I cease to fight anything and anyone around me, like I feel that flow, like the energy around me, not having to know all the answers to things kind of like frees me up. And it's weird because I remember when that first started happening, it was like I used to have like the answers to everything, right? I was like always an autopilot. And I look now and I'm like, is there something wrong with me? It's like freeing not to have any answers. Like I don't know. That's freeing. But as far as like routine, I don't really have one. But I don't know, for me, that a state of surrender came up, like, and like when you think about soldiers in war, like surrender, meaning like you wave the white flag and like you stop, you wait, and you like cease fighting anything and anyone. And the funny thing is, like, it's my mind that can be my own worst enemy, right? The overthinking. Don't really know where I was going with that, but that's what came to mind for me. It was just a state of surrender, and sometimes I have to do that 1,000 times a day. And be gentle with myself.
We'll do
those last three more. Yeah.
Thank you. So at first I wasn't sure what I wanted to say, and then you over there, sir, you were talking about how you used to have a state of flow, but your mental health depended on it. And I think, I don't have the word for it, but I can only describe it as flow's secret evil twin. Because I am unofficially, but most people agree that I have OCD, and one of my medications has now treated it. And it wasn't that bad when I was younger, and I had this routine in flow state, say around when I was 12, where I'd get up every morning. I'd make the coffee for everybody in the house. I'd sit down and I'd practice drawing. But then as I got older and my mental health got worse, I got to this point where in my work I required a very specific routine to be able to function. My common saying at my workplace was, if somebody moves the lemonade pitcher 4 inches to the left, I'd want to cry. I don't think that deserves the word of flow. That's fear or stress. And they can feel like the same thing at times, but they're not in how they leave you when you're done. Because when you're done with flow, you feel a lot calmer and accomplished. And with this evil twin of flow, you feel like you just barely survived. And I think that it's very important to distinguish that, even though they have things in common.
I feel like the connection that I was making a lot was kind of the differentiation between where flow stops and where kind of like hyperfixation can begin. Like as somebody, who's neurodivergent, like I feel like there's times where I can be kind of start in a flow state and then get into the point where it's such muscle memory that it's almost like, automatic, where I'm not actually mindful of what I'm doing, but I'm moving so fast and making decisions so quickly that it feels like flow, but really I'm just hyperfixated, kind of losing track of time, like that time blindness where it's like, a minute could go by or it could be like an hour, but it feels like a minute. So I feel like one thing that I go back to is Elijah Goldstein, who's like an MBSR practitioner, talks about sometimes about moving like at half speed, where, in terms of being aware of our emotions, if we're doing the same things, just kind of moving a little slower, almost like if we were doing like Tai Chi or Qigong, where you're kind of like purposefully slowly moving into things. So I think when I start getting in too much of a flow with that hyperfixation, I try to slow my movements and use that to slow my mind. But I feel like that line between flow and hyperfixation for people who are neurodivergent can be like very thin line. So thank you.
I get the impression it changes also as we get older. I am now pushing 81 years old. I've been in business and corporate life, and it used to be that things seemed like they flowed. Or I'd get through the end of the day, and I would have accomplished at least 90-something% of what I had set out to do without a problem. Nowadays, when you get a good night's sleep, one of the prime functions of sleeping is to clear the deck a little bit. Get rid of the stuff that you haven't used in 50, 60, 70 years, but it also cleans out some of the things that might have been helpful. And I think the flow states become more difficult. And I find myself now, if I don't make and I still don't, I don't have a habit of making a list. I need a list to put at my door, so when I walk out the door, I got my hearing aids in, they're charged, I got my temporary teeth plugged in, I got, my cell phone charged up. I need now, and never had to, have a list. So get back in the flow state, write it down if it's that important to make that deposit today before you start bouncing checks. Whatever, you gotta help yourself stay in flow.
Okay. A couple of closing thoughts. My friend Gogsong says that these rituals are our opportunity to see the Buddha in everyday activities. And if you can't see the Buddha when he's right in front of your face, you're not going to see him when things become more complex. And when we hear the phrase, see the Buddha, remember the Buddha can be thought of as our fully awakened mind. A lot of what I'm hearing from all of you guys has to do with self-care, getting enough sleep, getting the right kind of sleep, making lists. Sambe said, just in passing, I don't know how many of you picked it up, but she said clipping her keys onto her purse. I remember before I used to get into the habit of clipping my keys onto my belt buckle or onto my belt loop or onto this bag that I take to work, I would lose my keys a lot. And so what we're really doing is perfecting our character. Our senior teacher, Haji Sunam, says what we're doing here is studying the perfection of character. And that really agrees with exactly what they said in the karate school 40 years ago. So think about during the week what kind of things you can make into rituals. So now let's do the 4 great vows together, and then we will have some announcements, and then we'll do 3 bows before exiting. All beings, one body. I vow to liberate. Blind passions, one root. I vow to terminate. Dharma gates, one mind. I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to realize. Okay, announcements.
Thank you, everyone. I would say, I mentioned this to someone, I would say about 75% of you were new people here at the temple. Welcome. And, thank you, Shivana, for welcome to the Zen Temple. My name is Samoon. I didn't get a chance to meet all of you that well, but afterwards we have tea in the lobby, and we have a great chance to get together and meet new people there. So welcome, and we look forward to seeing you on a regular basis. So you know probably all the public services are offered every Sunday at 10 a.m. And then please also join us for Together Action every Saturday from 3 to 5. This work practice is aimed at helping us maintain our temple buildings and grounds. As we consider hands-on work a vital aspect of our Buddhist practice. As we care for the temple, we care for ourselves. Olambana Day will be held Sunday, September 7th at 11:45 a.m. This special ceremony of peace and reconciliation honors families and friends who have passed away, brings closure to relationships that have ended, and helps us recover from loss. For details, please talk to one of our teachers who are wearing gray. That would be me included. Some advanced preparation is required, so please sign up on the clipboard if you wish to participate. The temple offers meditation classes on a regular basis. This course includes simple stretching exercises, work with the breath, meditation postures, concentration, and mindfulness practice. Everything you need to know to support your own home practice, which could be a new ritual. And those are our 5 Thursday evening classes beginning on September 11th, and an overnight version of the class that will be offered from September 12th to 13th. Yoga with David Black is going to resume on Tuesday, September 16th, not the 9th, which we may have told you at one point. It meets weekly on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. The temple holds an online Sangha service for every Sunday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. This service joins with practitioners from our temples in Toronto, Ann Arbor, and New York, as well as those living at a distance. The Zoom link is located on our website. The temple is entirely supported by your generous donations. There's a fishbowl in the foyer for monetary donations, as well as an electronic credit card service. So thank you again for being here, and look forward to seeing you some more. And we have special announcements.
Recovery Dharma will meet in the historic Buddha Hall, big yellow house right next door, beginning at noon. So you're all invited.
Okay, let's stand and do vows.